Hello, hello. Hi, guys. Welcome back. All right. So, welcome back to part two. If you didn't see part one yet, there is a free link there in the description box. You can check out part one. Also, you'll want to, because I made a little announcement in part one of stuff that I don't want you guys to miss out on. That's coming up, I think, on Monday. Anyway, there you have it. But let's jump into part two. I'm not going to do a big recap. I just felt like we were ending it on a cliffhanger because what's going to happen. We see two people looking into the future. We had the Three of Wands for both the Empress and this King of Pentacles. So we certainly have a storyline about what comes next. We had a new beginning with the world coming in. We had no more delays or hesitations. We could be dealing with an earth sign, masculine, and possibly a fire sign or an earth sign or an air sign, just because we did have her first come out as a Queen of Wands and then also as a Libra and Taurus coming off of that Empress card. We also did have Virgo for her as well. But in any case, what does the future look like for these two? Because we can tell the fact that they both are looking toward the future and the fact that this character showed up in her story at all with a new beginning after there had been toxicity. And we know that there had been toxicity in her world. We know that because she was a Queen of Wands in the reverse and she'd been pretty stuck for a while. I have to assume that these characters are on I don't want to call it a collision course, but they're going to be reconnecting or having a chance to air things out. Let me just ask, what is the Three of Wands? Ace of Cups. We have, at minimum, we have self-love. At best, or at maximum, we have sharing of, like, maybe sitting down and having a cup of tea together, speaking some truth to each other with open, loving hearts. You know, sometimes two people can love each other and they're both just in tough places at the time. And we already know from part one that she had the hurt that she felt being ghosted, being more or less feeling rejected. If she tried to heal things with them, with that judgment card that had come out, there was a lot that she didn't know. Either she didn't know why they'd done that to her, or she didn't know about what had happened in their life. So I feel like sitting down and having the cup of tea together in the future is going to be really helpful for both of them. Certainly really helpful, possibly for that King of Pentacles. Tell me about that. I want to focus in on the tea because I keep feeling like there's a lot of communication. I do feel like she got ghosted by that King of Pentacles. We have a Four of Swords in the reverse. Part of that truth could be like, okay, I'm ready to talk now, because the Four of Swords can be silence. The silence that happens when we're trying to heal. The same way, let's put it this way: if we were sick, we know we're, say we got the flu, we're going to lay down in bed. We're not going to be fit to answer emails and stuff and phone calls. We're going to lay down and go night. And so I'm going to say that he was able to, like, during that time of silence, that's basically what was going on. He's no longer in a space of silence. There's been healing that has occurred. Queen of Pentacles, and now he wants to fill her in. What's wild about this is that he sees her as a confused partner, meaning she was confused, right? Her head's in the clouds. She has no idea. She's so removed, so remote. She doesn't know what happened. Remember from part one, he showed up as a King of Pentacles. If he sees her as a queen, his queen, the person that he best matches with, he's like, I know she didn't know what was going on. I had to heal some stuff before I, like, maybe I really confused her, and now I need to sit down and, like, speak a truth. I need to open up. I know that I really confused her. Okay, hold on. We do have to ask this. Look, you didn't just confuse her. If this is what happened, you left her feeling like an ogre, as I said in part one. And she had to, like, get beyond that and say, I'm not going to take on someone else's rejection of me and let it make me feel bad inside. And this is how she became an empress, as she worked through this. But it was a long, dark night of the soul for her. Now, again, that could have been a lesson for her to say, I'm not in my lifetime going to take on other people's behaviors and say that it's all focused on me, or that it's a reflection always on me. I would say that that's maybe what happened here. Now that she's no longer feeling that way, we have a nice shift and change. We have a Three of Cups upright. Again, we see him saying there's a lot of, like, can we communicate? There's a lot of change that's occurred. There's a lot of like, I want to express things. This is a joyful even opportunity to sit down and talk, at least from his perspective, right? Let's see how it is from her perspective. I don't know that it's going to feel quite as like happy on her side, only because she did, have to deal with some hurt and pain. Although admittedly, not letting someone else's actions make her feel any kind of a way was a big lesson. Okay, so Two of Swords in the reverse for her. She's willing to talk to this person. She doesn't, once upon a time, she did block everything. We saw that back in part 1. We saw her kind of retreating and insisting that I must be a terrible ogre. They don't even want to talk to me. They've blocked me. They've ghosted me. She is not going to be blocking or ghosting them in the future as this opportunity to have conversation comes up. And she's not going to be like listening, but with earmuffs on. So everything they say, she hears as an insult to her. We have the 7 of Cups upright. We have the Hermit sideways, and we have the 4 of Pentacles. If anything, I think she's going to be able to be like, hey, what I've learned is I didn't know what was going on with them. So yeah, I'd be interested. What were they on a dark night of the soul journey? Were they holding back because they were operating at maximum capacity themselves? Like, honestly, when I've been on my own hermit's journey, I had only enough energy to deal with what I had to deal with for myself. I really feel like there's this total understanding that when we are trying to focus on whatever hurts or pains we've got going on, sometimes you invert, you go internal, and you deal with what you have to. And I feel more like she just faces them with curiosity, like, oh, you know what? I'm not wounded anymore. I don't feel like they ghosted me and punished me with silence. I don't take it personal anymore. I assume that why ever they did that, I'd be curious to know why they did that. I no longer feel like it's going to hurt me, whatever their reasons are. If I triggered them, I certainly wasn't intending to, but they may have gotten triggered anyway. Maybe that triggered them to go do some healing. I don't know. I'd love to hear what has happened with them in this time that I haven't spoken to them. So she's in a very different space. This does not feel like she's holding something against them, but it's mostly because she's not holding it against herself anymore, feeling like, I got rejected. You made me feel this way. I must be terrible. You hurt me because you made me feel terrible. She's an empress. Empresses are like, well, actually, you don't have that much power over me. I'm an empress. I handle things and I decide how I'm going to behave and react. So she's owning everything, and she's more just looking at this conversation as like, she's curious. I'd love to hear what actually did happen. I didn't understand. So honestly, I've racked my brain, but I never knew why you decided to hold back. Sure, I'd love to hear why. Let me ask this. King of Pentacles, did you ghost or intend to ghost, and cause her any grief? I do need to ask that, I feel. 10 of Swords. Well, this is a very painful ending. What does that mean? Did you feel like there had to be a painful ending? Did you feel hurt? We have Page of Wands. You did end things with her. For you, you thought it was over and you were going to go in a new direction, or that she wanted to go in a new direction. Oh my God, shadow side, the devil. I'm going to say exactly what I think. I think they decided, you know what, she's too good for me anyway. I can't be with her, so I may as well just leave. This is somebody who didn't feel like a king, didn't even feel like a knight, felt like a little teeny tiny page. And they tried to tell themselves, I'll just, obviously I can't be with her. They have 10 swords in their back. There's a tree with the tree of life that has no leaves on it. Everything here is negative. Their whole concept is negative, negative, negative. Everything here says, there's no way that I'm going to be, able to be with her anyway. They somehow felt hurt, even if they created that sensation of pain in themselves. But they decided, I may as well just end this. So they weren't so much ghosting as assuming it's done, assuming it's over, and then saying, I must have to move on, only being unable to do so because there was a huge collapse for them. Everything, I don't know if the way they ended stuff with her or their assumption, maybe this person had a habit of feeling like if there's any snag or any little relationship issue whatsoever, it must be over and I just have to move on. It doesn't matter how, this is devastatingly painful in their mind. but them saying, so I guess you just move on because, you know, obviously it won't work. Obviously it's over. Except then they started to realize either one of two things. Their own behavior was really, really toxic because they're the ones seeing the boogeyman here. They may finally have realized maybe it's me creating terrible endings, or maybe it's me assuming things are over that I didn't even want to be over, but I always tried like not to hold on. Oh God, they were filled with regrets. Four of Cups. Maybe they did have a tendency to always sabotage relationships or imagine that something wouldn't work out, so they would let go of things and, you know, step away again and again. But in this scenario, that didn't really work. In this scenario, that's not what they wanted to do. They didn't want to back away from this connection at all. This was a huge tragedy on their side. This is not the way they wanted things to go. We have a Four of Swords. But then it was like, now we're already in silence. Now what do I do? You know, being filled with that devil energy of the high level of stress, the huge amount of regret. And then what do? Well, you probably don't instantly rush back and say, hey, I think I sabotaged this. I don't want it to be over. I got, you know, kind of bent out of shape or hurt. I figured it was done and over. I thought I could then just walk away, but I can't, because now I'm realizing maybe I sabotaged it. And I wish I didn't do that. They needed to first heal. I'm glad that they didn't do anything to immediately come rushing back in. I'm glad that there was more silence and thought, because the Four of Swords is a great time to start evaluating what happened, evaluating why did this happen. If you just rush back in and be like, never mind, I take it back, without really figuring out why that happened, I don't know that there could be genuine like new beginnings or any healing whatsoever. So this actually looks really good that there was a delay. We have an Ace of Pentacles, we have a Page of Pentacles. Slowly but surely, and this could have taken, I mean, this whole thing could have played out over like 4 years. That Four of Swords sometimes to me is a long time. A lot of thoughts devoted to the whole situation. But if they came up with one conclusion, which is what I'd really love, is to, at some point, I'd like to try to fix things. I'd like to start again. I'd like to like communicate. But again, how do you communicate about something that you're only just now learning about yourself? An ending, a regret, the toxicity, where it's coming from, all of these origins. We still don't really know, just like she didn't know in part one. We saw her with the moon. We saw her saying, I don't actually know why they blocked me. I don't actually know what happened there. And it made her feel like crap for the longest time, till she finally said, that's the whole point. I don't know what happened. This isn't mine to know. I'm an empress. I'm not going to take on somebody else's behavior and assume that I understand what they did or why they did it. Maybe they had their own traumas. Well, we can see that they did, because we already saw them with that devil's energy. We saw them in a huge amount of distress. So something was up with them that made them end this connection. I don't know if they got triggered. I don't know if they, you know, had a tendency to always run anytime there was the slightest amount of like turmoil in a connection. They didn't have like good coping mechanisms or resolution skills or whatever you would call that. But that's changed. That's changed over time for them, for sure. And at this point, we know that there's no more silence, because we got that Four of Swords now in the reverse. We know that they have a lot that they'd like to say, and they actually really want to sit down and kind of like joyfully converse. Is it them reaching out to her then? Or is this all still something that's coming up in the future, where we have the Tower sideways? I think that this is still not happening quite yet. You know, like I said, the Three of Wands is anywhere from 3 days to 3 months for me. And we see this ability to like move forward. Both of them will have, you know, relaxed this energy. There's no egos up by the time they talk. We can see that. High Priestess and Knight of Pentacles. Yeah, I would just say that in this storyline, what we see in this snapshot is an energy shift. And because when we shift energy, then later we'll be able to have different outcomes. You know, if I am really irritated and stressed out, maybe it's not the best time for me to start trying to like hash out a conversation with somebody if I'm still pissed off at them. When I'm completely over it, then I can face them almost like it's a new day. I can almost face them like I'm a new person. And our conversation could be very different. Is not instantly going to jump to, I'm really speaking from a hurt space because I'm totally healed from it at this point. So my energy is going to be different. My words are going to be different. My vocabulary choice is going to be different. My just comfort zone is going to be different. And I feel like that's really what's happening. This says, I think she is very much aware with the high priestess that this day is approaching, and sure enough it is. I do believe he'll be the one reaching out to her, only because our knights are action takers, and she already knows somewhere she's going to hear from him in the next 3 months. Do we have any other message on that, universe? Ace of Cups. I feel like she's going to meet him right at the same spot and just be like, I am happy to hear from you. Honestly, I am. Yeah. What I never knew what happens. I'd love to, have some truth talk with you. Sure. That sounds great. But it's not like, oh my God, I'm so tense. Let me see. What are you going to say? What horrible things, if anything, I think she's going to be approaching with a real sense of like gentleness. I think she's going to be approaching with a real sense of, because here she is in the knight's energy. And this is very much like loving, very gentle. Here she is bringing this little cup of nectar to somebody who is, like in spirit form, like trying to revive somebody. She may even say, of course I'll talk to you, but I never tried to hurt you. If you were wounded, I wish that you had told me, because I would have wanted to be a support system to you, not somebody that made you hurt. Let me just ask this, universe, do we have one message as to why did they think it was a 10 of Swords? Where did that come from? 5 of Wands, because they, in their own mindset, decided somewhere between what they think is their instinct and their head, they got all caught up in their mind and thought in circles and kept insisting somehow this isn't going to work. Somehow it never works for me. Somehow, some way, either we won't be able to get on the same page, or I'm not meant to be with anybody, especially somebody that I want this much. Okay, there's the crux of it. There's the core, the nugget of where the problem comes from. They really wanted to be with her. But you notice how they were still keeping stuff secret because they're spying on her through a keyhole. This Ace of Wands is huge passion, huge desire, but they kept thinking there's no way she's going to be able to want me. So I think, honestly, this whole drama played out from part 1 all the way here into part 2. I think that this whole drama played out because they insisted there's no way that somebody I want this much is going to want to stay with me. So you know what? I'm going to save myself the hurt and pain. I'm going to end it with the 10 of Swords. I feel awful about this, but she's not going to want to stay with me. So I'm going to leave. Then that in turn made her feel horrible. Why did they just drop me like a hot rock? Why did they reject me? Then she had to go through her dark night of the soul to realize, look, I don't know what their problem was, but I'm not going to take it personal anymore. Now they've somehow worked on themselves about like, God, that was so toxic. Why would I have hurt her? Why did I decide something wouldn't have worked? God, I want to stop doing this. No wonder they want to come talk to her, and they still see her as their Queen of Pentacles, the person that they love. They really wanted to be with her all this time, but self-sabotage like crazy. Okay, it's been a long round the mountain message, right? But this is the self-sabotage that characters do when they personally have to work on their own personal worthiness, which interestingly enough is exactly what she then had to go work on after having dealt with them. But we have all characters feeling better about themselves now out of their own ways. And I think that's why we have 2 Ace of Cups. These 2 could be lovers, they could be friends, or they could at least be human to human, understanding where one another's wounds came from now. All right, I'm going to leave that there. Thank you so much for hanging with me. Thanks for giving it a thumbs up. Bye.